My name is Jennifer Walsh, and I'm on a mission to get more people outdoors, to understand and share the health benefits of spending time in nature, to fully comprehend the power that green spaces in nature have on our overall health, well-being, and mental state. We decided to film the entire season at the beautiful wellness community, Serenbe. Their mission is to live and work in harmony with nature, connecting people to nature and each other, so choosing to film in this beautiful place was a perfect fit in every way. The conversations on my walk are open and lively. We speak to a cross-section of industry leaders, people with varied backgrounds, yet all share how their connections and time spent in nature have shaped their life and their work. Join me on a walk with Walsh. This season made possible by Mother Dirt, good bacteria for great skin. Hi, I'm Jennifer Walsh. Welcome to this week's episode of A Walk with Walsh, where I'm here with Kim Severson, New York Times writer, and everything else you do. Food galore.
Right.
Many things, don't you?
Many things. We all have to do many things these days.
Don't we? I'm so happy you're here.
I'm glad to be here.
Thank you for coming. I know, isn't it beautiful?
I'm like,
right?
Yeah.
Well, let's go for a walk, because
Okay.
I know so much about you, but I want more people to know about everything you do, because I love the stories you write, and your love of food. And where does that come from?
Well, you know, I always tell people this story. So I grew up. My mom grew up on a little dairy farm in northern Wisconsin, and she's a daughter of Italian immigrants, and so she cooked a lot. And we had 5 kids in our family, which is, you know, small by Catholic standards, but we were trying to hang in there. Yes. It's not about size. You know, and I had a dad who was like a, you know, kind of mid-level auto exec. We transferred around a lot as kids, and but my mom, you know, we cooked. It was dinner at the table every night. And, you know, if you wanted to hang out with your mom, I was a middle kid. If I wanted to have some like interaction, I would be in the kitchen, right?
Sure.
So we had the whole, like, you have to be home for dinner, and she, you know, I would just hang out in the kitchen, and she was always, you know, you always had to carry in the groceries or empty the dishwasher. But I really got pretty quick that if I hung out in the kitchen, I could actually, like, you know, get a little bit more mom time. And so I think that's part of it. And, you know, I mean, I come from people where, you know, food and, you know, is the expression, although everybody says that, well, I'm Greek and food was how we, and I was, you know, but that just shows you the universality of food, right?
Absolutely.
It's very much how people relate to each other as a family. So I think I started that, and, you know, I had to work my way through college, and I waited tables, and I was a short order cook, and I was the assistant manager of a Little Caesars Pizza. I'm very proud of that in college.
Nice.
I'd working my way up.
As we do, right?
Yeah, I was good. I was like, you know, so I did all those jobs in college,
Great.
and until I started writing for my college newspaper. It was a college daily, and I just got, you know, I wanted to be a newspaper writer ever since I was in high school. Yeah, so it's kind of a nice marriage of all the things.
But did you always want to write about food?
No, that kind of came, you know, I was like, was sort of a post-Watergate baby, right? So a lot of us all ran off to journalism school after Watergate, thinking we were going to change the world, which I'm sorry, we tried. You know, and so I did all the things you used to do back in the newspaper days. So I started out as a cop reporter and a city hall reporter and all the things. And then I was in Anchorage, Alaska, working for the newspaper up there.
Wow.
And
how was that?
It was cold. No, it was super exciting at the time. I was up there for about 6 years. You know, it's the kind of thing I'm just going to go for a year.
Of course. Yes.
The newspaper at the time had just won the Public Service Pulitzer for writing about alcoholism among Native populations.
Oh, interesting.
And so they kind of had this feeling like they were, you know, the New York Times of the North, and it's a very exciting. I mean, my God, there's crazy stories up there.
Yep.
So,
it must
and
be.
I was, you know, I was like, okay, this will be fun. I'll go up there. I'll do this. So I was doing news and social service coverage and all sorts of different things. And the restaurant critic they had was just awful, and I couldn't stand it. And I'm like, you guys should let me take over the food column, just because I just couldn't take it.
Couldn't bear it anymore.
And so I, as my side gig up there, became the restaurant critic in Anchorage, Alaska, which I often joke is like being the best ballerina in Lubbock, Texas. However, it was a start. So, so I just started writing about food, and I had all these dreams that, like, maybe one day I could write for Gourmet Magazine, or you know, but it seems so far away.
Sure.
And this was. And so this is, you know, I kind of started writing more and more about food, and then I got a job at the San Francisco Chronicle writing full-time about food. And this was like in the late 90s, and it was right kind of pre-Michael Pollan. I don't know if you remember.
Sure, yes.
He started writing Omnivore. He wrote Omnivore's Dilemma. So it was just when, American food was starting to really take hold and express itself in a big way. It was when Gen Xers were just beginning to spend more money on going to restaurants than movies. Like that was their, and the obesity epidemic, childhood obesity, had just been declared an epidemic by the Surgeon General. So there was starting to be this kind of coming together of food as cultural currency in a new way. So I started writing about food at the San Francisco Chronicle during that period.
Wow.
And and so it just kind of snowballed into what we sort of see now and how big food is as cultural currency. I mean, it's right now it's the thing.
The conversations, absolutely, must have been really compelling even then to start in that place and then to see it where it has come to now.
Well, what's so interesting now, I think, is that you really, I always think about it like film in the 70s or maybe jazz, and like these were the ways we were expressing our cultural stuff, right? And so food is how we're doing it now. And if you think about the digital revolution that's happening, you have, we needed some kind of low stakes stuff to learn how to use our new technology. So that's why celebrity gossip is really big and food is really big. So we can learn to use Instagram or, I think if you kind of get real global, we're learning to use all of this new technology, but we're doing it with kind of low stake stuff. It's not like, even at the Times, we have, about 4 or 5 years ago, we started a NYT cooking app that's now just exploded, and you can just buy it as its own little app. But the cooking app has just gone crazy. And it was sort of the first big sort of standalone kind of product that the Times did. Crosswords is really big too. Of course,
yes.
But we didn't start with the Gaza app or the Middle East politics app,
which was smart,
which is more complex. So we start with food because it's such a common thing. So it's a really super interesting time to be watching food culture right now, I think.
Would you rather spend your time writing about it or cooking?
Oh, well, I love writing. I mean, writing's how I make my living, and I, like being a reporter is just sort of in me.
Of course.
And food is, it's sort of funny, like all my friends who are in the food biz, like in the food media biz, like I have my friends who are restaurant critics and all these other things they do. And when we get together, we just want like a roast chicken, some good, whatever local veg might be happening, maybe some good cheese, just very simple and delicious. It's, I test recipes for work, and
that has to be fun.
Yeah, it's good. It's just it's a different thing. It's nice to just be like, oh, great, this is my job now to test this recipe, and that's great. But one problem with that is that I rarely get to make the same recipe twice because I might find something I like, but in the rotation of a roast chicken and whatever family dinner, a recipe that might be more complex, I'll do, once or twice for work, and then I have to move on to the next recipe. And really, I think that you need to cook a recipe at least 3 or maybe 4 times to really make the dish work. Because this is the other problem with the kids today, if we may speak of the kids today.
We may. Please do.
They see these beautiful dishes on Instagram, and they want to be able to cook that Instagram ready meal, right? And it takes a little practice to be able to cook a meal that looks like, so they'll make it, and
nothing of mine ever looks like a picture on Instagram.
Right,
there you go.
But if you cooked a meal for a couple, 2, 3 times, and you got to understand that dish, you'd be like, oh, this is the part,
components.
Yeah, you have to kind of fine tune it. So a lot of people get really frustrated, and they go out and buy all of their ingredients, and then they try to cook it, and they maybe haven't practiced it, and it doesn't turn out well, and they're like, I'm going out. Yeah. It's an interesting phenomenon, I think.
It has to be. Where do you usually get your ingredients from? Do you go to a local, is it a farmer's market, or do you have suppliers you like to go to? Because you do cook so much?
One thing I do love to do is go to the grocery store, which a lot of people don't, but I find it kind of fascinating to see what people are buying and to see their, kind of what's in their cart. And there are some things that, I don't know, I'm probably not like other people because I'm happy to go to several places to get what I want.
Yes.
We go to the farmers markets Saturday and Sunday, sometimes both. Because that's kind of our main veg, and there's a chicken guy there I really, really like. And so for proteins, I'll usually try to get the farmers market stuff, but there's actually a couple good little meat markets around where I can find proteins.
Sure. Because you're based here now out of Atlanta.
I'm in Atlanta. I'm based in Atlanta.
Okay.
Travel around a lot. So, so I know those guys. But, on the day-to-day, maybe we're like, oh my God, we don't have anything for dinner. I've got to go to Whole Foods and get the cream and get the milk and then, pick up some lettuce for the salad. And, there's that's kind of the day-to-day. But I get kind of crazy having to buy my toilet paper from Whole Foods or my, lavender scented bath, whatever. It makes me a little crazy. So, we'll hit the Publix sometimes, because that's like the paper towels and the
supplies,
Ajax.
the basic supplies, yes.
And I have to say that the Publix, every once in a while, if we're just cruising around with Mike, I've got a 6th grader.
Okay.
The Italian subs at Publix can be really good sometimes, I have to say.
Yes,
so,
they are good. I lived in Florida for a few years,
so
I remember how good the Publix subs are good.
Why. They're really good. So,
and the sweet tea, if I have to say,
there you
it's
go.
a little sugary, but it's good.
Yeah, and there's some things, and so for example, you can always tell the snack moms or snack parents at the
yes,
you can almost read who they are socioeconomically based on snacks. So,
I love that you study that. You can study the moms or whatever.
Right.
At the store, the grocery store.
Now you live in New York, right?
Yes.
So where do you shop in New York?
Oh gosh, you can ask me that question. I shop at the local grocery store.
You shop by calling up and they deliver the Szechuan to your house. That's the best part about New York.
Kind of, once in a while, I'm comparing myself to you. I am not spending a lot of time cooking, so I cook very little in New York because also I love the experience. Small kitchen, but I love to experience the food in New York.
It's great. It's all where you live, right? Because here you're living the kind of bigger suburban life, and it's kind of the thing. So now I have a bigger kitchen I can cook. I can drive my car somewhere.
You can fill it up with lots of groceries.
Yeah. So and cooking in New York is its own unique kind of foraging for stuff, and then your kitchens are smaller and. You have to. It's its own little. It's like a different kind of sporting adventure than cooking here. So
yeah.
So
how long were you in New York though? Weren't you in New York for
7-ish years? Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I still go up every month or 6 weeks. I have to stop put my hard shoes on and go into the office.
Go into the office. So, is there a certain place in the country, in the U.S., that you like to experiment with food or to try the new food scenes?
Well, it's fascinating.
It has to be changing a lot.
And every place kind of now has a much more elevated food sensibility, and some of it is that it's almost like an algorithm in a city. Now you go in and they have, like a coffee place that has this, and now there's, and there's the smoothie places, the poke bowl thing is crazy.
Yes.
I'm surprised there's not a poke bowl restaurant just down out here in the woods.
I've had poke bowl actually the past 2 days in a row, but whatever.
So, so it's so funny to see those. But you can find food and food people in a way. It used to only be there might be the gourmet kitchen cook store or
sure.
But now it's much more vibrant. I go to every farmer's market in every city that I go to. Always. It's so It's just makes me happy. Is it for the
experience? Because I'm sure you must love to just feel what's
makes me
seasonal.
Super happy.
Right?
Makes me super happy to see what the farmers are doing and what the community is. It just just walking through it is good. Just that. But it's also a really good way. The Tucson farmers market, the intense sort of radical seasonality of growing food in Tucson in the desert.
Yes.
Versus New York. And New York, which is the farmers markets, although they have a lot, they're not quite as as varied. There's apple season and cherry season and the asparagus. But here in the South, and even in smaller communities in the South especially, this is such an agricultural part of the world, or the country.
We'll go this
way. That's great. I love the fork in the road.
I know there's a fork. Which way should we go? We'll try this way. Why not? There is the fork to the waterfall. Okay, let's go check it out.
That's nice. A waterfall. We're such a beautiful little place. I mean, it's so close to,
Isn't it? It's magical here.
Yeah.
I love being here because, again, we are really so in tune with nature when you're here. And every experience when you're here is the homes are based on nature. The food is really locally grown. And I love it all because I just feel so at peace here compared to when I'm in New York City.
Right. Even just driving up, you're just like, oh. you know, you get that feeling. You can just feel your...
It's the Serenbe heart rate just kind of lowers everything down.
Yeah.
Are you seeing a lot with sustainability in your field?
In cooking, you mean, or in grow? Well,
both, actually.
You know, sustainability is such a kind of watered down word. It means different things to different people. It's sort of like when you say, treat me with respect. Well, respect means so many things to so many different people, right?
Yes.
And it's all culturally, you know, affected. So sustainability, I always find that word a little bit like that. But I do find that people, I mean, in my world, there is, you know, there are things like the vertical gardens that people are growing in the city, and so you can get greens from the hydroponic vertical things, which is fine, but it never tastes as good as some lettuce from, you know, that grew in the earth. And so, while I appreciate this notion that maybe we can grow greens in a hydroponic thing on the roof of the building in Whole Foods, is that what I want to eat? You know, I want to eat what's pleasurable to me. I want to eat what's delicious. And so sometimes I think we sacrifice the delicious for, you know, in the name of, you know, technology or
convenience.
Yeah, or speed and convenience. So I don't know, sustainability. But I do think the one thing is, and I keep trying to get my editors at the Times psyched about this, and they're like not. But I think the notion of cover crops is like this thing. So, you know, those are, as farmers try to figure out how to keep nutrients in their land and not put a bunch of inputs in, like, you know, fertilizers and stuff. This idea that you put a crop of clover or alfalfa or nasturtium or whatever you would put to help, you know, rebuild that soil.
Yes.
But then you have to keep that ground not productive with more sort of traditional crops. So my thing is, and Dan Barber up at Blue Hill in New York is really into this. Like, if you could get people to, like, eat, you know, more barley, eat more of these cover crops and make them kind of hip and cool, and then, you know, all the smoothie bars will have, you know, whatever, buckwheat or alfalfa or, you know, clover smoothies, because it's a cover crop. And if we get people excited about eating cover crops, then it's going to help the
soil.
But every time I pitch to my bosses, they're like, cover crops, who wants to eat those? But I'm working on it.
Maybe someday they will.
Just maybe one day they're going to see the brilliance of my cover crop vision.
I like the cover crop vision. It's a great idea because it also helps with the soil, the health of the soil, which
That's
I think
the key,
we all need, right? And I think
it's all about the soil.
It's a bigger conversation I think we're just starting to have now, is how are we going to grow our food to be seasonally? How do we teach people that you want to eat food that is in season and not something that's been frozen 3 times over, and just to experience like really delicious food the way it's supposed to taste.
Right. And that it's, you know, people are like, God, the tomatoes are so expensive, those good tomatoes, or, you know, and I'm like, how much did you just spend on your phone and your tennis shoes?
Thank you.
And you're going to complain to me about, but you know, I think as grocery shoppers, we come from a generation that was all about like the clipping of the coupon, right?
Yes.
And so there's that place where you're, you know, is the, you know, the local milk or the organic milk $1 more a gallon, and you're just like, phew,
I know.
Look at that, it's like $5 a gallon for that milk. But seriously, you will spend $5 for a cup of espresso with warm milk in it and be fine with that. So to me, we have this funny coupon mentality when it comes to the grocery store. We got to beat the game there.
And it's been there for so long. Like, we've really had that coupon Sally kind of mode for so many years. You know, I remember growing up with the coupon.
Right?
I think maybe it is. Yeah. Or we can just create one if you'd like.
Right, there you go.
There's a lot of creativity here. Isn't this beautiful?
Look at these little outcroppings.
I know. I'm not even sure what they are, but it is quite lovely.
I guess granite. There's these crazy big granite mounds all throughout this part of Georgia. You know, it was all sort of built on granite, and there's some really big ones that we like to go hike about on the other side of the city. But yeah, this is
it's a beautiful place. Well, I also know you've written a few books.
Yes.
Are you planning to write any more, or any
You know, I have a book ideas like every week, pretty much. Because I'm like, oh, that would be such a good book.
Yeah.
But you know, the book game, I think. Weirdly, cookbooks are a pretty stable part of the book world. I mean, they have to be smart cookbooks, but every spring and every fall, you know, get a stack of new cookbooks, and they are a pretty solid seller in a world when everybody said, because there's something about people go online, look up recipes, and that's what they're going to cook, or they want to cook a real cookbook. I mean, you could do a lot more on a pad with a cookbook, right? You can,
Sure.
you know, have little sub videos to show you how to
Sure.
saute. You can do it, but it's just, we haven't cracked that yet. People haven't wanted a digital cookbook in the way I think everybody thought they would. And I don't know if it's my hands are dirty and how do I hit my screen
Sure.
so I don't,
Just so I don't ruin something.
which is something on our cooking app we've had to really figure out how to make it really usable with one or two just touches without making people scroll too much. But
that makes a lot of sense. Something I
anyway,
wouldn't even think about. But you're right. For
yeah, it's a
cooking
huge thing. So anyway, cookbooks, I was thinking about cookbooks. Cookbooks are a lot of work, and I feel really like, you know, we test our recipes a lot and I think you really have to write a cookbook and have recipes that really work for people is incredible amount of dedication. You know, at the paper, we kind of consider our recipes like all our other journalism, which is it has to be thorough and checked out and,
Absolutely.
you know, and accurate and true. So, you know, it's nothing worse than, right, you go buy all the ingredients for a recipe and the recipe's not written well or it doesn't really help you learn how to make it, and you've wasted all that money you just spent buying the ingredients.
Feeling. That is honestly,
Right.
like, that's the most frustrating part for me is when I do go shopping. So, you know what, I'm going to make this dish. And it winds up, it didn't work. It just didn't work.
And maybe they just, and a lot of that's on the recipe writer. I mean, some of it's on the cook. We get people writing comments that are like, I tried this recipe and I didn't have flour and I used cornstarch and it didn't work and this is a terrible recipe. So we get a lot of that, you know.
No, I'm sure you do.
Right. But I do have other kind of more nonfiction books in mind. But, you know, I've got a full-time job.
Yes.
I do some freelance stuff. I have a kid. And part of me is like that whole work-life balance. Like I'd love to do a book, but, you know, I want to be able to do it in a time when I've got...
You have time.
Yeah, I can really dedicate to it. I'm at that point in my life where I really feel like a walk in the woods
Yes.
is as important as one more piece of achievement, you know?
I'm so glad you say that.
And it's a tricky thing, but it's because, you know, and you live in New York,
life, yes.
you know, the pressure to like
do, create,
end of the day, you know, I was just a Midwest, like work hard, show up, you know, I'm just like a little workhorse, and you've had a good day if you worked hard and met all your obligations and did all that stuff. And then the pressure, of course, with the speed of the internet is, in a digital life, things churn much faster in my business than they ever used to.
That's hard.
And so all of that, very addictive and very, like if I just get to the end, I'll be okay.
Yes.
I'm getting a little tired of all my days being, if I just get to the end of the day and get all the stuff done, then...
Yeah. And like, what's the end of the day? Because then it'd be the next day to keep up and do the same thing. So it's that constant wheel that we're on. So I'm
like so not perfect at it, but it occurs to me that, and every time I'm out in the woods like this, I go, this is what's true. This is what resonates with me, you know?
Absolutely.
This is what is really real. And it's hard to remember that.
I know, because we do get stuck in those wheels of work and the wheels of things to do, and I think we're so disconnected, not you, but like the world is so disconnected from just being at peace with being still, or slow movement and gradual movement, just for our own mental health, just to be outside and say, oh gosh,
that notion, even you saying slow and gradual movement, I was just like, I could tell that's what I'm longing for. Yeah. You know, it's like you just feel it's what you're hungry for.
And our bodies need it. Our brains are just craving it so badly.
Right.
It's just, you know, we're here and we're here for a very limited time on this planet. So I think, isn't that beautiful? I know there's so much inspiration here. It's incredible.
Good. You're not going to make me hug trees.
I know. I'm not going to make you hug trees.
I'll hug it. I don't mind.
If you want to, but I'm not going to ever make you hug a tree. Okay. I promise.
I do secretly do hug trees when nobody's around.
Hey, you know what? I think that's okay. I sit underneath a tree.
Sometimes I need to hug a tree.
I think that's a good thing. Yeah. I'm sure it appreciates it.
Everyone
likes a hug. A tree.
I was just reading about how like mushrooms and underground are the like communicators of the forest, and they tell all the other trees like what's coming, and just the idea of like that all these trees could communicate with each other. I was like,
it's wild, isn't it? Because I always like heard about it, but now that I'm seeing this science behind it and I'm reading it, but that could be a story for you.
Yeah,
the mushrooms.
There you go.
It's really
type that right
I know. Exactly. But it's true, they're all speaking to each other, and there's actually something at the Botanical Gardens in Brooklyn. They are doing something with a sound piece underground, so you can actually hear the clickings of the trees. Wild. That's what I've heard. I haven't seen it from my own two eyes yet, but that's what I've heard.
That's fascinating.
Was there anything else that you're excited about working on or doing, or just your own personal private things?
What I think is super interesting right now, and it's really hard to get your arms around, is what's happening with the oceans and waterways, but also seafood more specifically. And so And here in the South, you know, I tell people a lot that the South is very much like the Italy of America in that it's hyper local and regional. And so how they make greens in, you know, in North Carolina and even in certain counties in North Carolina could not be more different than how they make them maybe in Mississippi or Tennessee. And that, you know, the ways of preserving food and of just the deep tradition of the way certain things are made here is, you know, it's as regional and intense as it is in Italy, I think, more than other places in America. And I also think there's super agricultural to-table history here and connection, you know. But with fisheries, in Gulf fisheries and like the fisheries on the coast of North Carolina, for example, so getting all that fish into markets or into where urban people can eat them and restaurants are starting to use them. So I think there's this growing southern sustainable seafood sensibility that's happening here. So you're starting to see restaurants that'll only they really source from different places, from different fishermen around. But it's very tricky because you have wild Gulf shrimp, which is one of the joys of living in the South.
Sure.
And then the questions of is this shrimper handling the bycatch right? Or is this,
Absolutely.
What happens to the shrimp? But that idea of wanting to just eat, and then getting people to understand that seafood frozen at the source is actually better than that frozen thawed stuff that sort of appears fresh at the supermarket but really has been out for a couple days. And
it's a great point.
But I'm super interested in that. And also the other thing that I've been I'm just going to jag off on this so there's three things that you almost see on every American menu these days right now at the high end. So you see burrata, and God bless burrata.
Of course, you're so right.
Every place has burrata now. And burrata's great. Why wouldn't you love burrata? It's
the cheesy
a
gooiness
soup dumpling of cheese. It's beautiful.
Soup dumpling
also,
of cheese. I like that.
Crudo. Flute crudo is this thing, but octopus is everywhere, right?
Yes.
But the whole octopus issue, so octopi are these super intelligent creatures, and I'm not even sure where if every restaurant in America is eating octopus, has octopus on the menu, then surely there must be a lot of pressure on those fisheries, and I'm not even sure where. I understand. I get Spain,
the same thing. Yes.
You get Mediterranean octopus. Maybe there's an Alaskan octopus. I don't know, but I'm just starting to research that because I think there's also this. Then we wouldn't need to get deep into animal ethics, but then there's the question. People are like, well, octopus are so intelligent, I don't want to eat them.
Yes.
I've heard people say to me.
Yep.
Well, they order a pork chop, and pigs are very intelligent too. But there is, I think we kind of go in and out of grappling with our place on the food chain a lot. And right now, I think, and a different creature will pop up. Was foie gras for a while, the fatted ducks with the fatty livers.
Yes.
And then sometimes it's, it just comes and goes with which animal. It doesn't feel like it's cool to eat. But I think hear a lot of people talking about not wanting to eat octopus, the octopus backlash.
I've been hearing a lot of that as well.
Right?
Yes,
so it's a thing.
A lot of that.
So I don't know. So I'm thinking about a story about that, but
that'd be a really compelling story, only because
don't tell anyone so I won't get scooped. Okay.
No one will get scooped, we promise.
Okay.
You can write it first.
I don't think that people need to be really overly stressed about food, but I think if you start to just listen to what you like to eat and why does that fast food burger appeal to me right now? Is I'm tired, it reminds me of my childhood for whatever reason, and maybe every once in a while that's okay, but the pleasure that comes from cooking food in your kitchen, the pleasure that comes from feeding, the table's how we learn to be a culture, right? It's how you learn how to save some for the next person on the platter. You hand this to somebody and we learn how to interact, you learn how to have a conversation and find out what everybody's up to without making them so angry they run from the table in tears. My childhood. No, but you know what I mean?
It's community,
just,
right?
The table matters so much, and why wouldn't you take a half hour, which is all really, you can put together a fine little meal in a half hour, 45 minutes. You don't have to be overly ambitious. But again, it starts with good ingredients, which starts with the earth. It starts with land. So, a lovely carrot that just comes out of the ground, if you, peel it and you even put a little olive oil or a little touch of cumin, something on it, it's easy to make.
So delicious.
Really easy, but it all starts with what's coming out of the earth. And, we just get so disconnected from that, you know?
That's it. We are so disconnected.
Yeah.
So thank you for bringing us back connected to nature. And thank you for doing this.
I feel it.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time today.
Thank you.
Thank you for
wonderful.
talking to us and sharing your stories and sharing your knowledge and your wit, which I could kind of hang out with you all day.
I'm exhausted hanging out with me all day.
Well, thank you all for tuning in, and thank you again for your time. Till next time, we'll see you soon. This episode of A Walk with Walsh wouldn't be possible without our sponsor, Mother Dirt. Learn more about all their great products.
Clean. We create habits around this word from the moment we're born. We clean ourselves, our kids, our homes, our environment so that we can be healthy. Are we? Are clean and healthy starting to become two different things? What about the kind of clean that comes with healthy, with being human, with thriving? Maybe that clean is something different.
And I want to thank our season partners, the Inn at Serenbe and Igni Productions. Continue the conversation by subscribing to our YouTube channel and the companion podcast available at Apple Podcast. Thanks again for tuning in. See you next Wednesday for more walks.